Hello and welcome to Starbound's second channel. My name is Gabriel the Bibi Capaldi and I'll be your narrator today. But before we get into today's story, please do check down below that you are subscribed to the channel. It's 100% free and helps us pop up on your feed a bit more often. The Grorian leader, Finnock, sits inside his private room. A wide, dark, circular space, lit only by a small window that lets in a few rays of their sun. At the center stands a square table made from a rare dark blue material found on their planet. On the table, there is a blueprint of the new advanced model of the Mind Ray, a ray that is said to be so powerful it's hypnotized every species the Grorians have encountered, and now, the new model is meant to cause even more terror. On both sides of the table lies a collection of essays covering subjects like science, history, biology, everything a species needs to evolve, defeat enemies, and conquer. The pages are thin and delicate, some yellowed with age, others freshly written. As he waits for his slave to bring him meat cut from creatures raised on local plants, Finnock's long, six-fingered hands move methodically through the pages. He studies the downfall of past civilizations, searching for patterns, always thinking one step ahead, determined that his species won't meet the same end. His protruding elbow bones tap against the table as he shifts position, a clicking sound breaking the silence. Finnock's face remains expressionless, but his eyes narrow slightly at what he reads. His slave, an Eotian, is 5 minutes late. Finnock is mad. Finally, the slave walks in carrying the food. The Eotian is thin and grey, and even this simple job looks like a struggle for him. His joints move weirdly as he hurries into the room. Finnock spots him, grabs the Mind Ray's blueprint and places it along with the other essays, then sits up at the table, back straight. Sitting down, his tall height, over 7 feet, makes him hard to ignore. Once the plate is set down, the slave turns and walks off quickly, his short legs moving fast. Finnock then asks him, voice low and even, "Where are you going?" The Eotian freezes mid-step. He turns slowly to face his master.
"I'm letting you enjoy your meal, master,"
he says in a nervous tone. "What time is this? Did you forget the rules?" Finnock's tone stays the same, but he taps his fingers on the table once. The slave stands still, barely showing any reaction as he checks the time.
"I'm really sorry, master. I didn't notice. I'll go take my punishment now."
His voice sounds dull and automatic. Finnock gives a small nod and waves him off with a quick flick of his hand. His face doesn't change at all. Just as the slave starts to back away, head down, Finnock says, "Oh, and after that, head to the reset room. You need to be hypnotized again so you're not late next time." The Eotian's skinny shoulders drop a little.
"Yes, master. Can I go now?"
he asks, still staring at the purple floor. "Out," Finnock mutters, his eyes never leaving the plate as he's holding a bone with flesh on it and eating like he hasn't eaten in ages. His pointed teeth tear into the meat, the sound of his chewing filling the room as the slave walks away. When he finishes, Finnock rises from his seat. He wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, his sharp knuckles catching a bit of the dim light. He puts on his royal golden cape. It hangs loosely over his build, and heads outside to see if things run as usual. The door to his chamber slides open with a soft sound, and Finnock steps out into the open air of Gyps. Their planet has a dark purple ground that's usually muddy in texture, except for the artificial paths and places they've built. His feet sink slightly with each step on the natural terrain, but he hardly notices the resistance. The air always feels wet against his pale skin, mostly because of the many rivers flowing through the land. The river water is clear, but no one can enter or use it because of deadly plants growing inside, plants no species can eat or even touch. The sun reflects off the surface of these waters, creating an almost beautiful sight, even though they're dangerous. Gyps's sun sits close, so the planet stays bright for most of the day. It helps a lot of plants and other life grow. The sky is a pale yellow, with thin clouds that move fast up high. As Finnock walks, there's a river on his right, flowing quietly, and on his left, a huge field of wild plants. They're dark grey, about 10 feet tall and 2 feet wide. They move just a little in the wind, making a soft noise that's always in the background on Gyps. The first place he goes to is the farm. It sits on raised, hardened platforms above the muddy ground, surrounded by thick fences made of the same dark blue material as Finnock's table. The structures rise like islands from the purple mud, connected by narrow walkways. Inside, creatures bred for food move slowly, their thick skins wet and shiny because of the air's moisture. These animals have 6 legs and flat, broad heads, with no visible eyes. They make low, grunting sounds as they shuffle around the area. These creatures feed only on specific local plants grown in the gardening area nearby, plants short and thin, brown in color, carefully chosen and cleared of the deadly species that infect the rivers, and then reproduced. There is the head of the place, Sanok, observing the slaves, the Krykens, as they're doing what they're supposed to, working like there is no tomorrow. The massive green-skinned Krykens are taller than both Sanok and the creatures they tend, their 8-foot posture bending awkwardly to perform the tasks required of them. Their heavy footsteps shake the platform slightly as they move. Despite their fearsome appearance, with fangs partially visible even when their mouths are closed, they work under Sanok's watchful eye. They monitor and make sure none of the creatures get sick or aggressive, occasionally reaching down with their huge hands to check an animal's condition. The air around the farm is heavy, filled with the scent of the creature's sweat and the distinctive smell of the Krykens themselves. Everything is calculated, how they live, what they eat, and where they're slaughtered, making sure they'll get the most amount of meat and the best possible quality combined. Finnock walks up to Sanok, his cape dragging a little in the mud. Sanok is tall, about 6'9", but still has to tilt his head up to look at his leader. He's thinner than Finnock, and the bones under his skin don't stick out as much, a clear sign he isn't built for fighting. "Is everything okay here?" Finnock asks. "Yes, boss," Sanok replies, straightening his posture as he speaks to his superior. "Good. If you see the slightest change in their behavior, let me know. My slave today was late 5 minutes. Sanok's eyes widen slightly at this information. "Did you send him to reset?" "Yes. I'll check if he did as he was told later," Finnock says, gazing over at the working Krykens. "Good. It can happen sometimes, but they can't return to who they used to be, that's for sure. They're ours now, and will always be," Sanok replies in a confident manner. Finnock rests a palm on Sanok's shoulder. "That's for sure, brother. But we can't tolerate the slightest shift in their behavior. Do you understand?" There's a warning in his tone, though his face remains the same. "Yes, boss, I do." Sanok nods quickly. Finnock nods, satisfaction briefly flashing in his eyes, and keeps on walking further toward the gardening area. The garden area stretches out behind the farm, with the same soft, muddy ground as the rest of the planet. The plants are short, skinny, and brown, growing in straight lines with gaps between them so the Roxans, the slaves working there, can move around without stepping on them. Their 3 eyes keep scanning the rows, always checking for anything out of place. Because the mud makes it hard to walk, flat stone-like boards have been laid down between the rows, creating paths through the field. The plants grow quickly and are the only food the farm creatures get. The area stays quiet, with just the sound of the plants shifting in the wind and the soft steps of the workers. The one in charge of this area, under Finnock's watch, of course, is Teron, who is caught not paying enough attention to the Roxans. He's actually asleep, sitting on the ground with his back against a wall, breathing loud and heavy. Though still muscular like a warrior, his body, heavier than usual, showing signs of neglect. "Teron, wake up, you lazy bum!" Finnock calls, his voice breaking the silence. Teron's body shakes, momentarily shocked, his eyes wide and unfocused. Then he sees Finnock, immediately gets up, and apologizes with a bow, nearly losing his balance on the muddy ground. So, sorry boss, it won't happen again. The after effects of his drinking still evident. That's what you said last time. Did you drink again yesterday? Finnox's question is direct. His eyes lock onto Terron's, cold and steady. It won't happen again, I promise. Terron's hands shake a little as he speaks, his voice unsteady. Finnox shakes his head, disappointment evident in the set of his shoulders, and then replies, I'm giving you one last chance. The only reason you're here is that I remember how much of a great warrior you used to be. But if you keep on being a drunk fool, you'll lose the position you have. I might even downgrade you to a simple citizen. This will never happen again. Is that clear? Yes, boss, Terron responds, unable to meet Finnox's gaze. Finnox gives Terron one last judgmental look and then walks away disappointed, his cape swirling behind him as he turns. Then he walks toward the army camp, following a path that cuts through the muddy terrain. It is wide and open, with ground that's muddy like the rest of the planet to help the warriors inside develop their leg strength, but packed tighter from all the movement. The air smells like sweat from the warriors training inside. Around the space, there are large rocks used for lifting and throwing, and tall poles stuck deep in the mud for balance and climbing. Some parts have deep holes for jumping drills, and others are marked by long lines where warriors practice fighting with their bare hands, all of it meant to make them stronger and faster. The ground has spots of blood, but no one cleans it. It's part of the training, a reminder of the cost of weakness. Eotian slaves serve them there, offering green-colored drinks from large containers they struggle to carry. The warriors barely acknowledge them, taking the drinks without pausing in their exercises. Finnox doesn't want to interrupt their training, so he passes by without asking questions. He observes silently from the edge of the camp, nodding slightly in approval at what he sees. Finally, Finnox heads towards the technology room to see what his scientists and their slaves, the Dokics, are doing. He approaches seemingly ordinary ground. With practiced movements, he brushes away some of the purple mud to reveal a metal hatch, its surface clean despite being buried in mud. It's buried deep underground, about 30 feet down. Only Finnox, the scientists, and their slaves are allowed in, through this hatch that opens to a set of white stairs with a rough, solid feel. The stairs spiral downward, and the air gets cooler the deeper he goes. At first, the walls are just bare rock, but then slowly shift into a cleaner, man-made material. The light fades, then kicks back on, sensing his movement. Inside the room, the walls are made of strong silver metal found on their planet, smooth and cool to the touch. Right in the middle, there's a round table pulsing gently with blue light. It's used to control everything: ships, weapons, tracking systems, and the mind ray. The slaves in there, the Dokics, move around the room with their large heads nodding in slow mechanical ways. Their single eyes blink rarely, focused intensely on their tasks. Their small build makes them look like a joke next to the Grorian scientists who supervise their work. Despite their obvious intelligence, they constantly look to the Grorians for approval before completing any significant task. Finnox gets in the mind ray room and notices his Eotian slave having done as told. A scientist is resetting him, hypnotizing him again, and making sure he complies 100% to his orders. The slave sits in a chair, his thin, grey body looking even more fragile under the glow of the device above him. The mind ray device is tall, about the height of 2 grown Grorians, and triangle-shaped on all sides with a flat bottom. The outside is made of the same metal as the walls, with small lights that blink in slow patterns, creating a hypnotic rhythm. At the top, there's a light blue color when it's active, casting a light on the faces below. When used, the device sends out a wave, silent and invisible, that reaches the minds of other species, bending their will to Grorian control. Finnox is satisfied, and then meets the head scientist, Pernon, who is pointing at something on one of the screens with his long, 6-fingered hand. When Pernon notices Finnox approaching, he straightens up immediately, his attention shifting completely to his leader. "Is it ready?" Finnox asks. "Almost, boss, but not yet," Pernon replies. "Have you made it even stronger?" Finnock continues, looking at the screen's data. Yes, although I really can't understand why you want this. Pernon's expression is slightly confused. Finnox's head turns sharply toward the scientist. What do you mean? It's already strong enough to hypnotize everyone. It even works on krakens. And these scumbags are strong. Pernon says. Finnock takes a deep breath and then lets it out. That's not how things work, brother. Evolve or get left behind. That's the way I view things, and you know it. The Krakens thought they would be glorious forever, and solely relied on their strength. They never expected we would create the Mind Ray and make them our slaves. It's all about evolution, and not getting too comfortable. You're right, boss. I'll let you know when it's ready then. Pernon nods in agreement. Good, brother. Finnock gives him a single pat on the shoulder, then turns to leave, his golden cape swirling behind him. Finnock then leaves the underground facility, climbing back up the white stairs to the surface, and starts heading back to his room. Once inside, he removes his royal golden cape, carefully hanging it on a hook beside the door. He settles back at his table, returning to the essays he was studying earlier. The room is quiet again, just the soft sound of pages turning breaking the silence. But the relaxation doesn't last long. One of his consultants walks in, a Grorian named Velix, whose nervous energy is evident in his quick movements. Velix stands in the doorway, hesitant to fully enter. "Boss, we have a small problem," Velix says, his voice slightly higher than most Grorians. "What?" Finnock doesn't look up from his reading. "It's, our colonies," Velix replies. Finnox's expression changes as he gets up. "What about them?" "There's a rumor spread out there." Velix's eyes look everywhere but directly at Finnock. "Go on." Finnock crosses his arms. "It is said that our Mind Ray isn't that strong after all. They're thinking of, stop paying taxes." Velix finally meets Finnox's gaze. "What? How could they say that? Did they forget we have many of their people as slaves? Do they want us to enslave them all?" Finnox's voice doesn't rise in volume, but gains an edge sharp. His hands clench into fists at his sides. They say our ray didn't work on humans." Velix takes a small step back. "And why do they say that?" Finnock begins to pace, his footsteps heavy on the floor. "Word is that we tried to conquer Earth, but didn't manage to do so." Velix's voice grows quieter as he delivers this news. "But this was a long time ago. Our Mind Ray wasn't so powerful." Finnock stops pacing, turning to face Velix fully. "You may be right, boss, but this doesn't change what they believe. It could start a rebellion." Velix stands straighter as he delivers this final assessment, knowing its importance. Finnox's demeanor gets skeptical as he sits down again, rubbing his forehead with his long fingers. The bone protrusions on his knuckles catch the dim light as his hand moves. He's quiet for a long moment, thinking through the implications. "All right. Gather a crew, our best warriors. We'll capture a human and show everyone who runs this place." His decision made, Finnox's voice regains its usual steadiness. His consultant nods and leaves quickly, relieved to be dismissed with a clear directive. Finnock then sends out a signal to get the ships and the warriors ready. Their ships are long and flat, with a color that helps them hide in outer space so they're not visible to enemies. The outside is smooth, with no cracks or parts sticking out. It moves quietly, with only a soft sound that might be mistaken for wind. The bottom has large openings used to land, take in things, or send out warriors, currently sealed shut in preparation for launch. On top, there is a round piece that turns, where Grorians can sit and watch what's around. The seats are like benches, wide with no gaps between them. After everything is set, they head toward the Earth. The ships rise silently from the purple mud of gyps, accelerating quickly once they clear the atmosphere. They land in a packed area, right in the middle of a political protest on the western side of Earth. The ship drops fast, settling on an empty space between buildings. Strangely, no one panics. The people there don't scream or run, they just watch, waiting. Some even more closer, curiosity winning over fear. Finnock makes a quick hand signal to his top warrior, Lavok, to capture one. Lavok immediately understands his task. The door slides open, and Lavok steps onto Earth. When the crowd realizes the Grorians aren't friendly, everything shifts. People start yelling, throwing rocks and objects at Lavok and the ship. The hits bounce off him like nothing. Lavok doesn't react. He just keeps walking, calm and focused, scanning the crowd for the right one. He stops in front of a young man, one who hasn't backed down, and says, "You're coming with me." His Grorian accent thick but understandable. "Damn, aren't you the same guys who came here 60 years ago? My grandpa told me about you. You're lame!" The human doesn't back away, instead crossing his arms and staring directly at Lavok. Lavok closes the distance between them. "Watch your mouth. Shut up and comply." "Okay, weirdo," the human replies, his voice less steady now with the bone blade pressing against his throat. Lavok drags the human inside the ship, moving backward to keep his eyes on the approaching crowd. The other humans try to stop the ship from leaving, surrounding it and pounding on its smooth surface. Some try to climb onto it, but the Grorians are too fast. The ship rises, shaking off the humans who had managed to climb onto it. In moments, it's accelerating toward the upper atmosphere, leaving only confusion and shaky video footage behind. On the way home, they have placed the human in chains on his hands and legs, the metal links clinking softly with every movement of the ship. The human sits quietly, occasionally testing the strength of his bonds with subtle movements, eyes constantly scanning his surroundings. Despite his captivity, there's no fear in his expression, only curiosity. When they arrive on gyps, they take him out enchained for everyone to see they're still in charge. "But, boss, he isn't hypnotized. This is physical force," says a consultant walking beside Finnock. "I have a plan. Don't worry," says Finnock, his eyes fixed ahead. He heads toward the stadium he makes announcements from. It is open, with no walls and no roof. The sun shines straight in. All around the center, there are rows of benches going up in a wide circle. The benches are made from a strong, smooth material, wide enough for even the Krykans to stand or sit on. In the middle of the stadium, there's a stage. It is raised above the ground, flat and wide, made from a solid stone-like surface. There are no steps. When the announcer walks towards it, a part of the floor rises to form a bridge for him to step up onto. Behind the stage, a projector shows a glowing symbol of the Grorians, a pointy end with a straight horizontal line running through the middle. The symbol pulses with light, visible even in the brightness of day. Finnock gets up on the stage. With a voice that carries to every corner of the stadium, he tells everyone, slaves and citizens, to be in the same place tomorrow in the afternoon. It'll be a reminder of how powerful their mind ray is. Then Finnock orders his consultants to tell the leaders of the planets they've conquered to come too, along with some of their people. He wants them to see that the mind ray should be feared as much as the day he conquered them. Pernon then finds him. "The mind ray's improvement is ready. It is now more powerful than ever," he reports. Finnock nods once, satisfaction briefly crossing his normal stoic face. "Good. Tomorrow, we silence the doubters." The next day, everyone gathers around the stage. The stadium fills early, with Grorians taking the best positions. Behind them, the conquered colony leaders and slaves from various species wait quietly. Finnock sits on his throne in the middle of the crowd, a tall chair with the Grorian symbol at the top. In the middle of the stage, they have the human, now without chains, and a Krykan and a Roxan, who aren't hypnotized by the mind ray yet, brought by their leaders from the colonies. The human stands relaxed. He's smaller than both aliens, but looks more confident. Occasionally, making eye contact with members of the audience, his gaze unwavering. One of Phinox's consultants is the one who's commenting on the event. "Today," he announces, hands raised for emphasis, "we demonstrate who is the strongest species of the universe." First, he introduces the new, improved version of Mind Ray. The wave it sends is 2 times more powerful, he explains. The audience is afraid. Intrigued, but also afraid. Thinking of what happened to their civilizations because of the previous model of Mind Ray. They can't help but be terrorized just thinking about what this model can do. Then, the show begins. First, they apply the Mind Ray on the Kraken. The device makes a low sound and everyone knows it's active. Within 2 seconds, the strong beast's eyes widen and stare intently. His body language changes, going from relaxed to tense. His fists clench, his jaw tightening, and his facial expressions grow cold but serious at the same time. Like a wild animal that is completely emotionless. Then he gets up and says in a flat voice, "Master, give me a request, please."
"What if I don't?"
says the consultant, circling the Kraken with exaggerated confidence. The Kraken then kneels.
"Please, master, give me task. My only purpose is to serve you."
The audience is shocked, murmuring to each other. The colony leaders try to be expressionless, but their fear is evident. Then he applies the Mind Ray on the Roxanne. Same effect. His eyes widen and stare intently within 2 seconds, all 3 of them fixed straight ahead. His demeanor gets emotionless and tense at the same time. Then he asks for a request, the words identical to those of the Kraken. While this happens, Phinox smiles and nods, enjoying the show from his throne. A small chaos can be spotted in the audience because of the anxiety and fear that grows within them, seeing what this ray is capable of. Slaves huddle closer together, finding comfort in proximity. Even some Grorians look disturbed by the demonstration, though they hide it well. Then, the last part of the show is about to begin. The consultant gestures dramatically toward the human, who has been watching with a silent, amused expression. The stadium falls completely silent. Even breathing seems to pause. Everyone is watching the human, all eyes locked on him. Even Phinox leans forward in his seat, focused and ready. The human looks back at the audience, turning slowly to take in the entire stadium. For a moment, his eyes meet Phinox's, and something passes between them, a challenge perhaps. The human is placed in the center of the stage. The machine powers up, its sound growing louder as it's adjusted to target human physiology. The consultant steps back, giving the device space to work. The ray is applied. Within seconds, the same signs appear. The human's eyes widen, losing their focus. His body stiffens, shoulders squaring and arms hanging straight at his sides. He slowly stands taller, turning toward the consultant. His face is blank, all traces of amusement gone. "Master, give me a request, please," the human says, his voice flat and mechanical. The crowd begins to murmur. Leaders exchange glances, their demeanor more fearful than before.
"It's working,"
someone whispers loudly enough to be heard. Phinox smiles and leans back in his throne, satisfied. The tension he's been carrying in his shoulders eases slightly. He gives a small nod to Pernon, who stands at the edge of the stage, acknowledging the scientist's achievement. The consultant steps forward, proud. He circles the human once more, examining him from all angles. The human remains emotionless, eyes straight ahead.
"Kneel,"
he commands, stopping in front of the captive. The human kneels smoothly, his movements precise and unhesitating.
"Now bow."
The human bows his head deeply, maintaining the position.
"Say you serve us."
"I serve you," the human says in a robotic tone, head still bowed. The crowd watches, stunned. The colony leaders shift uncomfortably in their seats, their fears confirmed. Phinox nods, pleased, his fingers now still on the armrests of his throne. The consultant gives a small grin, turning to face the audience. He spreads his arms wide and says, "See? Even humans are no match for us." "Stand up," he commands without looking back at the human. The human stands up slowly, his movements still mechanical.
Slap yourself,
says the consultant, turning back to face him. Without hesitation, the human slaps his own face, the sound sharp in the quiet stadium.
Harder!
The consultant demands, leaning closer. The human raises his hand again, drawing it back further this time, then, suddenly, slaps the consultant across the face with such force that the Grorian's head shakes. The stadium goes completely silent. No one moves. No one even breathes. The consultant just stands there, stunned. His hand slowly going up to his cheek where he was slapped. The human speaks again, but this time his voice is clear. No more robotic sound at all. Oops! Must have glitched! All around the stadium, different species start whispering. The sound spreads fast. Colony leaders and citizens glance at each other with wide eyes, leaning forward, fully focused now. Finnock sits up straight, his whole body tense like a pulled-back bow. Before anyone can stop him, the human pushes the consultant to the ground with surprising strength and runs off the stage. He moves with purpose, not panic, heading straight to a Grorian ship parked nearby for the demonstration. The guards try to stop him, but they're too late, their reaction slowed by shock. The human dodges around them with ease, as if he's done this many times before. He gets inside the ship. Just before the door closes completely, his eyes find Finnock, still sitting rigid on his throne, and says with a wide smile, "Is that all? That tickles!" The guards reach the ship, but it's too late. The door is already shut. A moment later, the ship takes off, its engines roaring so loud they drown out the rising noise in the stadium. It shoots up fast, turning into a tiny dot in the yellow sky within seconds. Everyone just stands there, stunned. No one can believe what they just saw. The stadium stays completely still for a few long moments, then, suddenly, explodes with noise. Some people jump to their feet, yelling that the mind ray isn't so powerful after all. Others whisper and try to figure out why it didn't work on the human. The colony leaders are the first to pull themselves together. They exchange looks that say more than words. Slaves begin to lift their heads and speak out loud instead of whispering. The Grorians try to calm the crowd, calling for order, but it's too late. The doubt is already there. Finnock stays silent. He sits on his throne without saying a word. His face doesn't show much, but his knuckles are white from gripping the armrests too tightly. For the first time, uncertainty is evident in his eyes. Then, one of his consultants approaches him, moving cautiously as if approaching a dangerous beast. Are you okay, boss? The consultant asks, voice barely audible above the rising noise. Finnock doesn't answer. He stares straight ahead, seeing nothing. Boss, we need to do or say something. Some of them might be tempted to start a rebellion. The consultant glances nervously at the colony leaders, who are now encouraging each other and starting to look confident. Finnock then gets up, his expression skeptical, frustrated, and terrified at the same time. His golden cape hangs heavily from his shoulders as he says, "We'll deal with that later. Now, leave me alone. I'm going to my room. I'll stay there to think of the only species that managed to defeat us the last hundreds of years." "But," the consultant begins, his concern evident. Finnock rests a hand on the consultant's shoulder, the gesture uncharacteristically gentle. "Brother, humans just showed us our civilization might come to an end soon. I need to let that sink in." His voice is quiet, meant only for the consultant's ears. The consultant nods, understanding the weight of what has happened. Finnock leaves, heading toward his room to stay there alone and think that their time might be coming to an end. His steps are heavy as he walks through the crowd, which steps aside to clear his path. For once, he doesn't stand tall, doesn't project the absolute authority he's always been known for. Behind him, the stadium continues to buzz with excitement and fear. The news will spread quickly. The Grorians' greatest weapon has no effect on humans, and humans, it seems, have just begun to fight back.